Hi everyone and welcome to Protocol 36, and in today's video, we'll be speculating if the Amazing Spider-Man 3 will ever happen in the future. Something everyone has been talking about ever since Spider-Man No Way Home was released. But before we get started, if at any point you enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate if you could drop a like, as that would really help out the channel. Thank you. So we all know the story of why the Amazing Spider-Man franchise was discontinued, with Andrew initially being fired because he couldn't show up to a massive event in Brazil as he was ill, where the Amazing Spider-Man 3 was supposed to be announced. And shortly after the Sony email leaks, it was cancelled. And later on, Sony made a deal with Marvel to reboot Spider-Man and to have him join the MCU, and the rest was history. But obviously it wouldn't be the end of Andrew Garfield being Spider-Man again, as we just saw him and Tobey Maguire return last December, playing their versions of Peter Parker. And after everyone has seen the film, the cast and the film itself received a lot of love and praise. But Andrew's Spider-Man was one of, if not the most talked about character after it came out, which was great to hear. So much so that people are asking Sony to make the Amazing Spider-Man 3, same with Spider-Man 4, and let Andrew finish his trilogy like Tobey and Tom, or at least make his Spider-Man fight Tom Hardy's Venom, since that universe doesn't have a Spider-Man in it and a lot of people just want the two to be connected somehow. Heck, even Tom Holland himself said that he would love for Sony to make the film and for Andrew to complete his trilogy. But will the Amazing Spider-Man 3 happen? And if it does, what would it be about? Personally, I think it has a chance, but the chances might be a bit slim. Not impossible though, since we do know how much corporations like Sony and Disney love money. But one of the reasons why I think there's a higher chance it might not happen is because, while they already have Tom Holland as Spider-Man, and as awesome as it would be to have two Spider-Man from different universes swinging around in the big screen, if it goes on for a little too long, then the general public may experience Spider-Man fatigue, especially when we also have the animated Spider-Verse films, the Spider-Man-less properties like the Venom films, Morbius, now Madam Web, which has been recently announced to be played by Dakota Johnson, and Spider-Woman, which may or may not be a legit MCU film, like Holland's trilogy. Not to mention, Sony said they would want to continue with the deal they have with Disney and announced another trilogy for Tom's Spider-Man, potentially set in university, and potentially have Tobey and Andrew appear in future crossover films, which seems more likely now after Tobey saying his appearance in No Way Home wasn't a closing chapter for his character. However, that said, it's not impossible, and if they choose to make the Amazing Spider-Man 3, then I think it will be a one and done, where they will end almost everything they teased in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 and be a finale for the Amazing Spider-Man saga, finally taking down Oscorp for good, as that was the source of all evil in that franchise, and potentially have one last showdown with Norman Osborn's Green Goblin, or the Amazing Spider-Man's version of Venom. Probably the Green Goblin though, since his arrival was way more set up, while the appearance of the symbiote in promotional material was removed from the film, replacing it with the Rhino suit. So if I were to make the Amazing Spider-Man 3, or at least guess how it would go down, then I would have Norman fake his death from the second film, which was pretty much teased, but get rid of the whole thing with his head being kept in the jar. Also use the Spider Venom and alter it to create a way more powerful version of the Goblin Serum. But other than that, have no mention of Richard and Mary Parker, leave them in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, and never bring them up again. And especially not use the idea of Peter bringing back the people he lost by using his blood, which was one of the original ideas for the first film. Just have the Amazing Spider-Man 3 be the final standoff between Andrew's Peter Parker and Oscorp in the form of Chris Cooper's Norman Osborn, looking more like the Ultimates version to differentiate him from the first Goblin, while also staying consistent with Harry's transformation in the sequel. Speaking of Harry, a scene where Peter finally visits and talks to him to get some closure would be perfect, especially after the events of No Way Home, which I would personally have the film set in. He would also try and help Harry rather than continue to hate him, but Harry wouldn't accept it, saying that it's too late and that he feels much better than he ever felt before. After Peter would visit Gwen's grave, telling her his experiences in No Way Home, saving the multiverse, curing the villains, and even how he saves Zendaya's MJ, but he would still struggle to move on from her, but does make a promise to focus on himself as Peter Parker and very loosely borrow elements from Spider-Man Blue, while also having the character to try and move forward, but is very much struggling to do so. But another character would help him out with that, and that is Mary Jane Watson. In my opinion, I would have Andrew's Peter finally meet his MJ in the Amazing Spider-Man 3, whether or not they get Shailene Woodley back. Preferably, I think they should, for continuity's sake, since she was supposed to show up and did film some scenes for the Amazing Spider-Man 2, even though they were cut. Not to mention, we do get a glimpse of Mary Jane inside a coffee shop when Rhino was terrorizing the city. But if they were going to use another actress for the role of Mary Jane, then yeah, that's also possible, since I also saw people say they would love to see Zoe Kravitz as MJ, which would be amazing in my opinion. And she also voiced the character in Into the Spider-Verse, so it's already perfect. But when they meet, both characters already carry all of their own personal baggage. For Peter it's Gwen, and for MJ it's her difficult life at home, specifically her father. However, together they both have each other to deal with it, and to make themselves feel better. And you can even have her figure out that Peter is Spider-Man, something she was known to do in the 606 comics, also having her relationship with Peter be very different compared to Gwen's. I would overall have the Amazing Spider-Man 3 be a character character study of Peter Parker and his life as Spider-Man. He knows Gwen would probably allow him to move on, but will he? Could he have a happy and healthy life, especially after everything he has gone through, and failing to keep Gwen safe? And after meeting Tobey Maguire, he believes he can, but has to be wiser than he was before, and make sure that Mary Jane doesn't get hurt, so he tries to keep it a secret from her, which of course, as mentioned before, she would just figure it out. I would also have a bunch of scenes with Peter and his Aunt May, as after times Peter lost his May, he probably thinks to spend more time with her as much as he can. And with Mark Webb's confirmation that Sally Field's Aunt May does know Peter is Spider-Man, I would have her tell him that she knows, and that not only is she proud of him, but so would Ben, which would hit him for Andrew's Peter, finally realizing that he has everything he needs in Aunt May and Mary Jane, and that he would try to use everything he has learned to take down Oscorp and destroy any plans of the formation of the Sinister Six before it began. And you could say the reason why the team hasn't formed yet in that universe was because when Peter was ranged for after the death of Gwen Stacy, it caused them to delay their plans, since less criminals like the Rhino would most likely not be available to volunteer after being hospitalized by a Spider-Man who wasn't holding back, while also destroying all of the spiders Richard created, which would of course anger Norman and would want him dead, but thanks to his condition he would be in a disadvantage, yet still giving Peter a run for his money in terms of strength and speed, better than Harry in the Amazing Spider-Man 2. However, Peter would rather help Norman even after everything he and his son has done to him, and due to him not only wanting to kill Peter, he would ultimately lead to his own death, and for Oscorp to die alongside him. And even though Andrew never got to save Norman, he got to save the city again, and of course Mary Jane and his Aunt May, finally bringing those characters together, Andrew having a happy ending and having a perfect final swing to go along with it, a chapter of his life being closed, but also an opportunity to meet his brothers again, and to tell them that he finally found his MJ, and that not only are they married but also have a baby boy called Benjamin Parker, paying tribute to Martin Sheen's Uncle Ben, and remembering him as the pretty good dad he was to him, and to always use his power responsibly no matter what. Also, if you're wondering why I didn't include Emma Stone as Spider-Gwen in this, since it was something some people wanted, I think adding an older Spider-Gwen and have her be in a relationship with Andrew's Spider-Man would just regress the character in my opinion. Andrew's Peter should be able to learn to move on without any version of Gwen present. Not to mention, once again in my personal opinion, I think it would just be a little weird to have him get with an alternate version of his dead ex-girlfriend. So what do you guys think? Do you think the Amazing Spider-Man 3 will happen or not? And if so, what would you like the story to be about? Let me know in the comments down below. I would love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Twitter. If you enjoyed this video, please like. I want more, subscribe. To begin, Protocol 36.